Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make some 3D cards that are responsive depending on the screen size. Everyone's like, oh, 3D is really cool, I want to embed it on my website. And then they embed it on their website and it looks terrible on mobile. And they don't realize that there's different things that you can do in Spline to make sure that your website responds to the different screen sizes as you would like it. So let's get into it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off what I've already done so that I can show you from the get-go. Okay, so first of all, we've got cards, 3 different cards in a group that is called cards. If you want to group stuff, you can highlight everything and then click Command G. That will group it. Okay, just means that things are a little bit easier to move around when they're in a group. Okay, now an important first thing to note is that you have a frame at the top which says responsive. Now you might want to have a custom frame. Okay, you might have like, okay, this is for a Twitter post, and maybe you're going to do some cool animations where things come in and out and whatever. But generally when you're designing, what I find is it's a lot easier to have it in responsive, and then you've got, you know, the whole screen to do stuff. Now when you actually go to click play and check out your design, you'll have this toggled off, but what you can do is you can toggle it on and you'll be able to change the screen size using this. Now mine is auto-responding depending on the size of my 3D objects. Yours might not be doing that automatically. So what you need to do is to click Auto Zoom On in the top right here. You see where it says yes. So just click yes. And then when you do that, you'll be able to see that your 3D object is responding to the screen size. As you can see though, it's not particularly good. Like, you know, it's like, do I want the edges to be cut off? And then when you get the screen size really narrow, maybe you've got, I mean, let's say what I think a SE phone is 360 pixels. So yeah, it looks a little bit rubbish. How do we change that? Let's say on mobile portrait we want these 3 cards to stack. Okay, so what you can do is you can do that using states. So let's say we want the gold card to go above, and then we want the bronze card to go below, but only on mobile portrait. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, what we can do is we can click gold, so this gold card that is being highlighted here, and then we can go to states over here. So if you click the plus icon, then you'll see we've got the base state and we've got state that are automatically added. So then what we can do is click on the plus icon of events just here, and then we go to start and scroll down to screen resize. You see how hidden that is? I feel like this is a really fundamental feature and it should be more obvious. Okay, click screen resize, and now we've got horizontal, vertical, mobile, and then we've got little buttons left and right. So this is less than, obviously an arrow pointing right is more than, and then we've got the pixels here, right? So we've also got between. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to do this on a mobile portrait. Obviously you can add different breakpoints in here. If you want to add a breakpoint, you can click the plus, just plus on that, and then you've got desktop, tablet. You can customize that, so you could do an extra wide screen, you can have a particularly wide 3D object or whatever. But for this one, what I'm actually going to do is just have mobile. Okay, so in here we've got less than 480 pixels. We're going to change the states here. So we've got transition. Now remember, this needs to be clicked at the start of this process. Whatever object you want to move in your different state, you need this to be highlighted here so that when you click transition, it says transition brackets, whatever the name is of your 3D object here. That's really important, guys. Okay, so we see transition gold. Now what we've got here is current and we've got state. So what the hell does that mean? If you change this from current to say base state is wherever this object is at the base, that's the base state. And then the state is where we're going to move this to. So we might move this card up to here for the mobile version, okay? So we've got base state, and now we've got state. So that's where the card is going to go when this view is less than 480 pixels, okay? This is all a bit like abstract right now, but I promise it will be easier once we have a look at it together. So we've got base state, state. This timing in here, this is a 1 second transition between the two. So let's say someone is moving their browser width smaller and smaller and smaller. This is how long it's going to take for that transition to happen from base state to state, okay? Now, obviously, this isn't that important, and it's very unlikely that someone is like moving their browser just to see how it stacks up, unless you're a web designer or a web developer, which is quite interesting. But let's just make that really quick so that people hardly notice it. It's not important for the design, okay? The important thing is that the design stacks. So we've got base state, state. We've got that ease in, out. That's fine. And we can actually test this out now. So let's have a look at this. It's already working. So as we move this in, nothing, nothing, nothing. You can see this number changing on the top. Now we've got it auto fit. So basically it's auto scaling until 480. So we've got it 497, 495. Boom. It scales. And you're like, yeah, that's cool, but this bronze one still looks a bit odd now, doesn't it? So we've got to move that as well. So you're trying to click around in here and you're like, why isn't this working? It's because you need to do a new state for the new thing that you want to move. So let's click out of that. Let's click on base state. So the gold one working perfectly. How the hell do we move the bronze one? Well, what we can do is do exactly the same process. Click on bronze, click on that bronze card, click the plus icon, and we've got base state and state. Click the plus on events, start, and go down to screen resize. Now, remember, less than 480, we want it to change, okay? So we're going to click transition. We've already clicked this at the start, the bronze. So this is all working, great. We're going to click that, and we're going to change this to base state, and then we've got state and base state. Okay, so base state is this one. State, we're now going to move that below. Nice. As you can see, I'm doing this quite rough. If you're doing this for a client, obviously make sure that you measure things out and you're like, yep, how far is that? What's the distance? Yada, yada. But just for the presentation, I'm just doing it like this. Okay, base state. And then we need to make sure that this is going to state. Okay, so let's check this out. Base state, state. Boom. 1 second, ease in, out. Nice. Let's get rid of these. So I don't have any other breakpoints other than less than 480. This is changing. Boom. You see how easy that is, guys? Nice. And now that means that when you embed this on a website, it's going to change at less than 480, which is great because obviously, if you can do the animation side of things or the scaling side of things in Spline, it means that when you actually embed this into Webflow or Framer or whatever you want to do, it's going to be so much easier because you've already thought about this. You've already done it in Spline, and it just makes it a little bit easier. So let's have a look at this embed now. Let's go to Webflow. I use Webflow a lot more than any other platform. So obviously you can do this with Framer. I'm pretty sure you can do this with Squarespace and all sorts of other things, but I just use this. I just find it the easiest to use. So I'm just going to call this demo site. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in an embed, and then we can put in a spline in here. In fact, let's put this in a div. I'm going to make this div full width. So let's call this spline embed, and I'm going to make this 100 viewport width and 100 viewport height. So I'm going to make this flex centrally aligned, which means that it's going to sit in the middle of the screen at all times. Now I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to find spline scene. Boom. So we've got a spline scene in here. Now, how do we link our one? Well, we need to go back to here. And what I'm going to do is click export. And then you've got the viewer in here. And I'm going to copy this. In fact, before I do that, let's just check a few different things. We've got logo. We want that to be turned off. Loading preview, no. Loading. We don't want to spin our animation or anything like that. Nothing. That's all good. Optimizations can be made. So let's have a little look at the load speed time. Okay, so there's a lot of different objects happening here. We've got a lot of different things going on, because if you look at these cards, we've got a lot of different shapes. In fact, the thing that really kills the load speed is actually this guy, because this guy is a 3D man. You can see this is actually a 3D object right now. Potentially I could just make that flat to massively simplify this design, but I'm not actually embedding this on a website, so I've kind of just made it a little bit ridiculous. But you need to think about this if you're going to embed it on a website. Okay, so I'm going to go to viewer and I'm going to click copy. Now remember, whatever this if you might have added a camera and have that as the camera that you want to embed on the site, but just remember that whatever you change in here is actually going to change in your project, so just to be aware. Okay, so we're going to do copy, and then we're going to click this little cog, paste that in. And there we have it. Our spline scene is loaded. Let's make this background. I've just clicked on this div, and I'm going to make the background a nice dark grey. So we've got our embed, pretty cool. I actually don't know if we want to be able to scroll and do everything. So how do you change that? Well, you can go to play settings and you can click no. We've already hidden the background color. We've hidden that. The main scene is the cards, and like I said, the camera was personal camera. So if you wanted to add a different camera rather than the one you're actually doing the design in, you can do that. Cursor, default, fine. I'm going to turn off orbiting and all of that. Disabled. Zoom, none. Page scroll, none. That's fine. Trigger, stop at object, fine. Update viewer. Now sometimes I've found that this doesn't update straight away. Let's reload spline scene. Let's see if that's changed anything. See, we don't have any scrolling movement or anything like that. Now, let's check if on mobile this is going to do anything, because that was the whole point of this video. So we've got, actually we need to publish this site to see the changes take place maybe. We can see the pixels, 486, 480, bang, it's changing. It's working, guys, epic. So as you can see, that is how you make your 3D objects responsive for your site. Another thing people ask me is about animations. If you're going to do animations, I recommend doing the actual animations within your website platform. For example, say we wanted to, on scroll position, do something. So let's say we wanted these cards to move on scroll. What we can do is we can click Spline Embed. Let's rename this second div demo div, or let's call that demo container maybe. 100 viewport width, 100 viewport height. So now we've got something which has two different divs, okay? Two different sections. And let's say on scroll we're going to do something with this. What we could do is have a page trigger. So while page is scrolling, play a scroll animation. So what we could do is we click this spline scene and then click plus, and then you'll see we've got integrations spline here. And what's kind of cool about this is we've got 3 different cards named gold, bronze, and silver. Now if we go into here, we can actually see we've got a horrific number of different shapes for the actual head of the man in American Express, because I just exported that. But what we can do is we can have the gold scene that, say for example, is 0 position on at 0% I mean, and then at 100%, which is 100% of the page being scrolled, so at the bottom of the second container. What we can do is we can, these need to be the same actual object. We can change that to be, say, 200. In fact, let's make that 100 minus 100%. 0%. They also need to be the same. Sorry, let's make that rems. They also need to be the same unit. Okay, so 0 and 200 then. Live previews off, so let's turn that on, and we can see that this is moving up as we scroll. So you can do some quite subtle effects like that inside Webflow rather than inside Spline. It's a lot easier to do kind of granular control in Webflow or Framer or whatever else you're using than in Spline, is what I found. Remember though, if you are doing this and you've already set, foundational stuff like this, that's constantly changing. That means that this same animation is going to apply across the different breakpoints unless you specify that it won't. So you need to remember to turn off tablet, phone, and portrait if that's what you want. But let's just keep it on for now. See how that's scrolling up as you scroll. Obviously you can do some quite fun other things. Let's say we've got this at so let's say its Z position is 0, and then here its Z position is 6.3. Whoop, that's because I haven't set the Z position on here. Z0. Ugh, why is that not happening for me? Sometimes you need to be careful to make sure that you do the animations right from the get-go, or it kind of jerks out. Let's do the spline, Z, spline, 6.2. Not liking that, that's odd. But anyway, you can see how you can change these very quickly and do some quite fun things in animation. Well, you should be able to see if you can do this better than I can, which I've clearly... okay, so I think I know what's going on. Sometimes it jerks out when you have another figure that's not on the bottom one. So you see how it says 0 and 0 in the Z, and then this one, it just has a figure change in the Y and then nothing in the Z. I think that's the problem. Let's try and do this again. Spline, and we've got zero or 200. Whoop. Let's double, triple check this. I need the Y. 200 in the Y. And 5 in that. There it is. Okay, so that's the problem there. Another thing to note, if you want the spline scene to fully fill the container that it's in, you can just change this to 100% and 100%. And what that means is that it's going to cover the viewport that it's in. You might not want that on all the screen sizes, but this is where you just need to work out how it's going to be responsive and what animations you want. It's a little bit fiddly, I'm going to be honest, guys. You know, it's not that easy, because you know you've got a designer who's like, hey, I want this animation to only work like this on, you know, mobile portrait, but I want it to work differently on mobile landscape. And you're like, okay, we got to fiddle with this. We got to work out how it's going to look in Spline and then how it's going to look on the website and make sure that that works cohesively, okay? But as you can see, with a little bit of fiddling, it's working. You can see how there's some quite cool things that you can do. You can do some hover effects. You could like hover on this card and it could like, you know, pop out or something. Or you could have a cool wallet and then it could like show the cards. Okay, I'm getting excited. I'm going to stop this video. That's how you do all that stuff. If you guys want to learn more about Spline and you have enjoyed this silly little tutorial that I've done, I have this Substack called Spline Time 3D, where I write about stuff that I'm making and how to do things in 3D. The other thing that I've got is articles on my website, and I write every single week about whatever I'm making. Most recent article was about how to create an AI voice assistant using Spline and OpenAI. So anyway, if any of that is of interest, go check those out. Hope to see you in the next video. Cheers. Ciao. Bye.